We're on page 400. Maran writes the following halakha. Mi she'eino ochel, somebody who is not eating food. Eino yachol levarech birkat hamotzi leotzi haochlim. He cannot make a hamotzi for the people who are going to be eating bread. So let's say I go on some new age gluten-free diet and I can't eat any more bread for the rest of my life. And it lasts all of 3 weeks. You know, someone said he finished his 3-month diet in 1 day. So he makes a blessing, a hamotzi, but he's not planning to eat from the challah. He's making the blessing for you, so you can eat from your challah. Can I do that?
Oh, I mean, if you're not going to eat, but to make for someone else.
Yeah, I'm making the blessing for you.
According to daily halacha, no, you can't.
You can't. According to Maran, you also can't. Good Maran agrees. Aval ktanim, but for children, yechol levarech. You're able to make a blessing for them. Afal pi she'eino ochel imahem kedei lechancham b'mitzvot. Even though you are not eating with them, in order kedei lechancham, to do chinuch, to educate them, b'mitzvot, how to do mitzvot properly.
Can they say Shem name in vain? Can't?
Yeah, so that's what we're going to get into right now. Let's find the origin of this halakha. It's actually later in Shulchan Aruch. So if you want to take out Sefaria, you can go to Shulchan Aruch. We now have a full set of Shulchan Aruch that Dr. Feynman donated us. We had an old one also, but a new one too. New print.
Shulchan Aruch, Arachayim.
Arachayim. Chapter 2:15.
There
If we're in this chapter of Shulchan Aruch, you might as well learn it. First halakha, Maran says, and this might explain to you some difference between Ashkenazi tefillah and Sephardi tefillah. Maran says, "En oneh amen achar bichotav." You don't say amen after your own blessings. So you don't say shakol yavro amen. You don't say amen after your own blessings. Ela, except for achar shtei brachot, or after, except for after 2 brachot or yoter or multiple brachot, shehem sof brachot, when there are a group of brachot that come together.
Well, like Bet Hamazon,
Like what?
Rechat Hamazon, I believe there's a place where you say amen, whether you're saying it yourself or someone else.
Mirror Shamayim.
Where do you
If they
say
say,
You say amen after your own blessing whenever you finish. Sof brachot. When is our brachot? Baruch atah Hashem ashkivenu avinu shalom u'shmotenu. What is it called? Baruch atah Hashem. What's the bracha? Friday night, Shabbat. we say.
God said,
Ve'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim, amen. You say amen after your own bracha there. Because you only don't say amen in the middle of bracha, but at the end of bracha, for sure. V'nagu, the custom is la'anot amen achar yihalucha. We say amen after yihalucha. Where's yihalucha?
Yeah, 259.
259?
Yeah, Shulchan Aruch.
215?
Yeah,
What's yihalucha? The blessing after Halel. Yes, and then v'chai yishtabach. When we finish yishtabach.
right.
I think, is there a place in a
Avocher b'shirei zimra melech el chai olamim, amen. We all say amen to our own blessing, even though you normally don't say amen to your own blessing. What do you say, bro?
I think also in Kaddish. That's hard to say because
No, that's something else. That's what we're telling people to say amen. That's different. That's not a bracha.
Oh.
Haggah, says the Rama. Wait a second. That's not the meaning of Haggah. Yesh omrim, some say, she'en onin amen, you only answer amen, רק אחר ברכת בוני ירושלים בברכת המזון. You only say amen in the blessing of בוני ירושלים in ברכת המזון. But why do you say that amen over there? It's not the end of a ברכת המזון.
Oh, yeah, you do say it after Yerushalayim. Why do you say it?
Even Ashkenazim. Baruch Ata Hashem
Yeah,
Baruch Yerushalayim. Amen.
It's just another word.
Why? Right.
It's part of the.
It's part of the bracha. Why?
Yeah.
So it doesn't fit the formula of the last bracha, but really it does, because Birkat Hamazon used to end
There.
there.
Oh,
The blessing that we add after that is a blessing that was made on Harugei Betal, when the Jews of Betal were massacred in the Roman occupation of Eretz Israel. So that's when we instituted that bracha. So that really was the end of Birkat Hamazon. The custom is in our countries, being in Ashkenaz, that we don't say amen after any other bracha except for that one. And nobody should change this minhag. ובמקומות שנהגו לענות אמן אחרי הילוך והשתבח, יענה גם כן. אחר ברכת שומר עמו ישראל לעד.
when you see something like
But in those places that have the minhag, Ramah doesn't fight the minhag. He says that in the place where there is no minhag, that minhag shouldn't begin. Yes.
shouldn't begin.
In Ashkenaz.
It says you should not change it. That seems like very strong.
Ramah, sometimes Ramah just says the minhag in Ashkenaz is like this. What he tells you is, it's the minhag. He's just recording a minhag. When Ramah says minhag in Ashkenaz is like this, don't you dare change it, he means it's a very strong minhag. It's not something you should. He considers that Ashkenazi minhag to have sources or strength equally, if not more powerful than that of Maran's opinion. That's how Ramah normally disagrees with the Ramah, with Maran. If he doesn't say, and you cannot change it, normally it's because he doesn't disagree with Maran. He simply is recording that the minhag in Ashkenaz is this way. There are a few places where he writes such things. So, the next halakha, this had nothing to do with what we were learning about in our Shulchan Aruch, but the next halakha here is important. HaShomea echad miYisrael mevarech achat mikol habrachot. If you hear a Jewish person, this is the second halakha in that chapter, so chapter 215. If you hear any of the, we're in Safari.
Wow.
If you hear any Jewish person saying any of the brachot, what does it mean any of the brachot? Anything, any bracha you hear. Even though you didn't hear the bracha from the beginning till the end, you just heard part of his bracha. That's what you hear.
You walk in.
Even though you're not obligated in that blessing, he's not saying it for you. You walk into the tkef. Boy, play a giffen. You didn't come for kiddush. You came to get your talit back because you're going so. Chayav la'anot achav amen. You must answer amen. But if the one who's making the blessing is a heretic, what does it mean epikoros?
Why is a heretic making a blessing?
Oh, very good. What is epikoros? Somebody who's worshiping.
Oh, apikoros.
Apikoros, right? Okuti or a kuti. What's a kuti?
Ones that don't believe in the world tradition.
They were Jews that kind of converted to the Jewish people, but didn't really. We were always iffy about their status in the Talmud.
Like the Eruv Rav.
Yeah, of that generation. Otinok or a child.
Well, usually when, like my children would say a blessing, I would say amen.
Vishina, oh hayagadol, if it was an adult. Vishina mimadbea brachot, or and what did the adult do? The adult switched there's a legal word for this. Switch the formula of the blessing. Change the formula of the blessing. En onin achav amen. You don't answer amen, not after an epikoros, not after a kuti, not after a child, and not after an adult who made a mistake in the blessing. So what is that? What would be a case like that? Chamim say, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, and he says, Hamotzi lachmaniot min haaretz, who brought out, rolls from the ground.
What's a tinuk though? Because we have a tinuk. Isn't that an infant or a baby? Because
Very good.
we have people getting aliyot that are 9 years old, and we're saying amen to their baruch Hu, right?
A tinok seems to be anybody under the age of bar mitzvah.
Wow. So that
But a
conflicts with a
tinok could
9-year-old.
also mean anybody who's
Right.
younger than the age of chinuch. You'd have to figure out what is Maran referring to when he says tinok. This halakha is the one that's directly connected to what we just read by Hamotzi. He says you're not allowed to say Hamotzi for people who are not eating, but if you're educating a child, then you're able to say a bracha for them, even though you're not eating anything.
So if you say it for a child, you say amen to it, you're doing it for a child.
if you're doing it, well, that's what we're going to get into right now. That's good. The Gaon of Vilna wants to separate the two. Okay, this is splitting hairs, not right. Ramah adds something interesting. Haga, Vonim amen achar goy. But if a non-Jew says a bracha, you say amen. Im shama kol habracha mipiv, if you heard the whole blessing from him.
But he's not obliged.
Imagine though, when you have somebody you don't know if they're, like one parent's Jewish or somebody, you go into a synagogue and you don't know they're Jewish or not.
Yeah.
I think
It's
it's
a recently common problem.
Or if you do know and you don't say Amen. Or if they're going through the process of conversion.
See, Maran though here is contradicting the Rambam. The Rambam says that you don't say amen after a goy. Which is the whole reason why we don't say amen after a kuti. Why? A kuti is Jewish, but because the kuti is Jewish, but he's like a non-Jew, so you can't answer amen to him. But if you would answer amen to a non-Jew, so of course you'd answer amen to a kuti. There are many different answers, different chachamim try to give to explain why Maran is not consistent between a kuti and a goy. It didn't come to stick in my head. Some chachamim want to say that there's a rule. You know the rule, safek brachot lakel. If you're in doubt as to when to make a blessing, you don't say the blessing. There is a similar rule called safek amen lakel. When you're not sure whether you should say amen or not, you shouldn't say amen. Because there's a problem. Now, whoever's learning Masechet Brachot will read. There are problems with saying amen, amen itoma, amen that's a levatala. You can't just say amen whenever you want. Sfaradim have this problem. Sfaradim are always saying amen in the middle of tefillah, all kinds of things that don't require an amen, and it could actually be a problem in halakha.
Well, it's interesting. So, is it a problem? A lot of people just colloquially
Amen,
will
all
say
over the place,
amen,
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 right.
like let's go to Disneyland.
Amen, amen.
Right. If you want to look, it seems to be from the Gemara, from what I recall. It's been years since I said this again. That unless the bracha is set up in such a way that there's a blessing and a Hashem's name in the blessing, you can't say amen to that blessing.
What about when you're saying the tefillah
Okay,
Torah?
Shem Tzudech. We said that Baruch Hashem Shomeh Tefillah. Even though that
So if you do it later in the day, so I don't know who holds this way. It says bracha ta Shemei tefillah. It leaves out Hashem's name. If you say tefillah Torah more than once.
a good Sephardic person who's afraid of saying Hashem's name.
Okay. So
Don't be so afraid. Our parents says Tefillah Derech every time he gets in the car.
Really?
10 times a day.
Wow. That's not-
Tefillah Derech.
I've seen at least 10 different.
With Hashem's
tefillah
name.
Torah.
With Hashem's name.
Dangerous in Yerushalayim.
Everywhere.
It's true every time you get
He's
in the
not
car.
afraid of this. The whole Tefillah Derech, by the way, is not a blessing. People make it. The Tefillah Derech is a bakasha. It's like any of the Yehi Ratzons you pray anywhere. You can say Yehi Ratzon as much as you. The question is when you're obligated to say it. But you can say Tefillah Derech however you wish. Mishnah Berurah here has an interesting thing. If you want to find it, it's a little bit hard for you to find. Mishnah Berurah says, "Ita b'midrash." It says in the midrash, "כששומע שאחד מתפלל דבר ומברך לישראל אפילו בלא הזכרת השם, חייב לענות אמן." Midrash says that when you see a person blessing another Jewish person, oh, you know, Hashem should bless you with children, or Hashem should bless you with... It's a mitzvah there to say amen. ולכן, and therefore, נתפשט המנהג שונין אמן אחר הרחמן וברכת המזון. And that's where the minhag comes from, to say amen after the harachaman and bרכת המזון. Which it seems to me only Sfaradim say amen there. I don't think I ever heard Ashkenazim answer amen by the harachaman.
No, usually
No,
don't.
by the Sfaradim, everyone is amen, amen, amen. But it's not a close before. It's not. Okay, but already from this midrash, this became a thing. I once saw a letter of Rabbi Abadi, who was very upset about Sfaradim who answer amen. Like, Hashem tzodech, amen, amen, amen. He really didn't like these things, and he said when he was a rabbi in a community, he told them not to say amen. And it requires a little more iyun. But from here, you see that. But what's the fear of answering amen after a non-Jew if you don't hear the whole bracha?
You're agreeing to his blessing?
Yeah, so he said Shakon Nevzo, why not say amen? I mean, what's the fear?
Some people think he's Jewish. I don't know. But
Of you saying amen, what could possibly be wrong with saying
Levato?
amen?
blessing in vain?
He's saying a blessing. He's blessing Hashem after going to the bathroom. What's the fear? It's like if you hear the whole blessing, you could say amen. If not, you can't. What's the difference if you hear the whole blessing or not?
Because maybe he was blessing to someone other than.
Very good. You didn't hear who he was making a blessing to.
Bracha to.
Yeah.
And therefore, only if you hear him say the blessing to
Also,
HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in that case, you can answer amen to his blessing.
Hmm.
That's what makes the difference.
Why does the party use the name instead of Brichu and
Why do Ashkenazim say Brichu instead of amen? The poskim are very clear. The first 5 amens in the Kaddish, meaning it's amen.
So what? So why is Brichu used instead?
That's a great. I don't know the answer to the question. The Tamani, what do they do? Bifok amen, amen.
Amen, they know. They say, they don't say amen. After they get to Yesh Merabah Mivrach, they say Mavorach, and they say amen.
Amen there. So they also have 5 amens, but it's a little different.
But they say in different spot, and they say towards when the Ashkenazim say
Right.
Berich, but we say only amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
And we don't like the Moroccans say amen after everything.
Let me look into that for you.
Okay,
There's a
alright.
book, Mitzvah Minagim. I'll look into where it comes from. It's a good question. All right.
So Maran holds that both for a goy and a kuti, you would not answer amen.
Maran and Shulchan Aruch don't say anything about a goy. He says by a kuti no. In his commentary in the Rambam, he seems to imply that by a goy yes, and in the Bet Yosef he also seems to imply that by a goy yes. So the question is, why is a goy different than a kuti? Even though in Shulchan Aruch he doesn't say. The problem with Maran and Shulchan Aruch is that oftentimes he doesn't say everything he needs to say in Shulchan Aruch. There are things he says elsewhere. This becomes a big point of contention between who? Between different groups of Sfaradim as to how far of an allegiance do we have to Maran. So for example, in Morocco, Rabbi Shalom Assas is a famous letter saying, we accept the rulings of Maran in Morocco, but only in the books Shulchan Aruch and Bet Yosef. Everything in another book of Maran, we didn't accept those rulings on ourselves. It's not the persona of Maran that we accepted, it's the 2 books of legal rulings that our Chachamim read and accepted. Rabbi Yonatan Yosef has a different attitude. No, anything Maran wrote anywhere in the world, you have an obligation to accept because we accepted Maran as the ultimate posek of the Sephardic community. That has actual practical ramifications. And this would be one of those cases where in Shulchan Aruch he doesn't explicitly say something. So you'd have to say, are the things that Maran writes elsewhere, are they authoritative in terms of halakha l'maaseh, actual halakha?
The contradictions too, what he writes.
Right, and who do you follow? Which books came
Yeah,
earlier? Which books came later?
Yeah.
Yes. That's all I'm saying, yes. Maran continues at halakha gimel. Veha de'en onin amen achal tinok. That which we say that you don't say amen after a child, I'm going to translate child. Dafka b'sha'ah shelomed habachot ifnei rabo. That's only when he's studying the blessings in front of his rabbi. What does that mean? The kids are in a classroom.
The practice.
They're practicing shakol, mezonot, ha'eh, tzadama, bekan mazon. Are they eating anything? No, they're just practicing blessings. Is his rabbi allowed to teach him blessings? Like that? With Hashem's name?
He has to.
Yeah, of course. Because if not,
How they learn otherwise.
how many times did the bar mitzvah kid get up to the Torah? Baruch Hashem HaMevorach. Like that they say,
Yeah.
because they were taught over and
Because
over
they
and
were
over.
taught
Hashem
Hashem,
HaMevorach. Or
right.
V'daber Hashem el Moshe Lemo. Why are you so afraid? The Kodesh Baruch Hu say Kodesh Baruch Hu's name. We are teaching you what to do when you're on stage.
I think, isn't there a confusion with,
So,
a bracha and vein mevatel that I think this seems to be where that attitude comes from. Like if you say a blessing in vain, it's a very
So
big
hold on
problem.
to this rule. So any time you say Hakadosh Baruch Hu's name in vain, vain means for no good reason. Anytime you say it for a proper reason, you're teaching a bracha, you're learning a pasuk. By the way, when you say psukim, when you sing songs of Shabbat, there's no reason not to say Hashem's name. For what reason would you not say Hashem's name? Every time I go Shabbat, Karibon, why
Yeah,
Karibon?
you know,
It's the person who wrote the song
I've gotten in trouble
for saying Hashem's
for
name.
saying Hashem's name.
The
because
one
I
who
learned
wrote the
it that
song
way.
wrote a Kadosh Baruch Hu's name there.
Yeah.
Who is Ka that you pray to?
Yeah.
What about,
Yeah.
what about Simchat Torah?
Baruch Kel Elyon, Kel Elokeinu. That's not the whole reason we say Kel is because we don't want to say Hashem's name. When you are singing a song to Kadosh Baruch Hu, you want to sing a song to Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Kale's better than spinach. What about when you're dancing with the Torah and all the songs that people do with the kales and Hashem?
So it seems like a lot of. First off, this is important. A lot of the songs that people you sometimes hear. I'm gonna give you a classic song I can think of. A Sephardic song. El Shaddai Eli Eli Kabetzincha Yedidai. People repeat El Shaddai Keli Keli. Right, they say this part. Eli Eli in that song has nothing to do with Hashem's name. El Shaddai is Hashem's name. Eli Eli is like an Arabic refrain, like no. So all of a sudden that became Keli Keli. It becomes Hashem's name.
Oh, no.
But it's not even
not
part
El.
of the song. It's not Hashem's name at all. So in that
It's like
situation,
die.
it's-
That's
right,
all.
it would be like, oh, die is Hashem's name. Let's say, D-Y. It couldn't be.
Right.
So that comes from ignorance. When it comes to other songs, there are some songs, especially pop Ashkenazi songs like today, like the songs of dance. You say the pasuk so many times over and over and over and over again that it feels disrespectful to say Kadosh Baruch Hu's name that many times over. They say half a pasuk and then switch to another half a pasuk and then they switch to a different book from the Torah and back again to here. In those songs, it seems to be the standard practice not to say Hashem's name proper. I don't think it's an incorrect thing, but they're doing, I think that makes sense. But when you're singing a real song, or you're saying a Tehillim,
Yeah.
we have someone here in the Beit Knesset recorded a song. Shir Lamalo, Tesainayin. They want to, can I say Hashem's name? Just like when you say Tehillim any other time. That you're singing a whole chapter of Tehillim. You're not repeating anything. You're not adding words. It's just Tehillim. Of course you can say Kadosh Baruch Hu's name. I told them it's dangerous because if they record it with the Kadosh Baruch Hu's name, people might think that they're not religious or then so they won't listen to their music. That unfortunately that ignorance exists also. But it's important to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu with his name. So now in a school setting, the rabbi has an obligation, the teacher has an obligation to teach the children how to say brachot properly. And therefore they say Hashem's name. When you hear school children learning from their teacher how to recite brachot, you don't answer amen to those blessings. V'af al pi... Oh, so then, but you understand, you already got the answer to your question. Meaning, where Maran says you can't answer amen to children is only when they're practicing. שמותר ללמד את תינוקות הברכות כתקנן. אף מי שהם מברכים לבטלה. You're allowed to teach children blessings properly even though they're making them לבטלה, in vain. בשעת הלימוד, because they're just studying, they're not actually eating food. אבל בשעה שהם מברכים לפתור את עצמם, but because when in the moment that they're saying blessings for themselves, on their own apple, on their own cheese, on their own whatever they're eating, כיוון דבני חינוך הם, because they're already from the age of חינוך, of education, Onim achem amen. You can answer amen after them. V'chen, and therefore, the similar says Maran, B'sha'ah shomrim haftarah b'vet HaKnesset. In the same time that they read the haftarah in the synagogue, you can also say amen after them.
Talking about underage.
Underage.
In Yamna Shul, we said that the kid.
So when can you say a haftarah when you're young? How young?
As soon as you
From
know
the
how
age
to
of
read it.
6. Rabbi Yosef reading Nebi Alma says maybe today the age of 5. As long as a kid knows how to clean himself after the bathroom, that's the age that one can begin to recite haftarah.
5, but usually it's earlier than that.
When I was first grade,
Properly.
when I was first grade, I was get down Leah. And we put on tefillin when we were 9 years old. So bar mitzvah was nothing, non-event.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So a question we were discussing before. So if you're learning Tanakh by yourself, is it proper to use Hashem's name, or is it better to just...
Yeah, when you learn to use Hashem's name. When you learn brachot, like let's say you go to the Gemara and it's talking about all the brachot you say. You shouldn't say Hashem's name in those brachot. You're not a child. You're not saying the brachot or something. But to use HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, yes. There's a famous Ashkenazi rabbi. His name was the Chacham Tzvi. They call him the Chacham Tzvi. Chacham Tzvi, why was he called Chacham?
Why he's wise.
It was wise, that's right. But every other Ashkenazi
I don't
rabbi is
know.
called rabbi. Only by the Sfaradim you call rabbis Chacham.
When did he live?
He lived a few hundred. I'll tell you, he was the father of the Yabitz. Someone want to look him up? Yabitz when he lived. Rabbi Yaakov Emden. I'm saying not more than 300 years ago. Yabitz, the Yavitz. I'm sure heard of him. This is the Yabitz's father, Yaakov ben Tzvi, the son of Chacham Tzvi. Chacham Tzvi, his parents sent him to study Torah in Turkey. Because of that, when he came back, even though he was an Ashkenazi rabbi, he retained certain Sephardic practices. One of them, there's no such thing as a rabbi nowadays, because nobody has smicha anymore. So his son is from 1697 to 1776. So his a generation before that. Thank you. So he insisted that people call him Chacham instead of rabbi, and that was his title, even in Ashkenaz, Chacham Tzvi. Another thing that he was very particular about was he would always get upset at his students that when they would read books of Torah in the yeshiva, they would study, they would say Hashem, Hashem, Hashem. So who's this Hashem you worship? Worship Yud Kei Vav Kei. Say his name. Don't be afraid. And that was one of the famous practices of his Bet Midrash. Yabetz, I quoted Yabetz in my book. Yabetz says about his father, Kama tsar yitzta'er oto tzaddik. How much suffering did that tzaddik have? My father, he's talking about the minhag of kitniot and Ashkenaz. How much suffering did he suffer? And he said that halevai, that the Gdolei Hador would agree with him to annul this custom. He said, and anyone who annuls and abolishes this practice, yehi chilki imo, may my portion be with him in Gan Eden. That was what he wrote about this. Yeah, I bet that's what he writes about it. His father, every day of his life, was suffering from this minhag. It's interesting. It was an interesting chacham, interesting personality, an interesting place and time. Yeah, I bet it's important because he led a war against Rabbi Yonatan Halevy, my wife's great-great-great-grandfather. Rabbi Yonatan Halevy was a famous Kabbalist in Ashkenaz, and Rabbi Yaakov Emden accused him of being a Sabbathian, a secret, a closet Shabtai, a follower of Shabtai Tzvi.
It was a war or just a conflict?
No, came out to war. If they had guns and tanks, there would have been a war. They even at the end of their life didn't make up with each other. They say there's a story that they got buried next to each other. It was the only spot open in the cemetery was right next. That's what they said. I wasn't there to tell you.
I mean, so
Forced
you
to
would
be
say
next to
they're
each other.
bearing their differences.
The ground's been shaking ever since.
Yeah.
It's one of the.
It's never too late to bury your
This
differences.
machloket is all.
Oh,
This machloket is almost as old almost as severe as the machloket of the Hasidim and the Mitnagdim. You should know that much of that war between the Hasidim and the Mitnagdim, a lot of it had roots in this conflict already beforehand. By the way, I have a friend, a dear friend, many years my senior, who has done a lot of research on the time period of Shabtai Tzvi and his influence on the Jewish community. If I were to tell you that there are maybe only two rabbis whose name you can quote that we are certain did not believe Shabtai Tzvi was Mashiach. Maybe these two are the only two that we can swear on they didn't believe. Everybody else,
They went along with it.
everybody else means almost every rabbi you ever heard of in your life.
You really fell into it. Wow.
Shabtai Tzvi was not, it wasn't some fringe phenomenon that some people went after him, and it affected things. Look, in fact, even until today.
It's so hard to believe because he was so outlandish.
Yes, but his influence in the world of Judaism was
I
incredible.
don't see
Don't
how
get
he got
fooled
away with
again.
it.
I actually read some testimony now in Hebrew from some Chacham who lived in his generation. It's unbelievable the things that a lot of what we know as outlandish wasn't so revealed to everybody who was involved with him. They didn't see all the hindsight is 20/20. A lot of things that we saw afterwards that we know he did, some crazy things that he did, we didn't always, not everybody picked up on in his life. And those who did also had all kinds of, just like today, they're people they call tzaddikim who do all kinds of terrible things, and they have all kinds of justifications why they can do them. Shabtai Tzvi was no different than then. Maybe I'll bring you one. I have a book here, an account written in that time period. It's almost heart-wrenching because you see the things that happened in Shabtai Tzvi generation. You see similar things happening today. same problems, same. It's not even copy and paste. It's like identical, mamash identical one to the next. And the same blindness that exists in society as to the dangers that may come from such a thing. 2 steps, not 10 steps, 2 steps down the road. And it's frightening. Some big chachamim. Look, Tu B'Shvat. We're coming out of Tu B'Shvat. There is no mention of Tu B'Shvat in authentic books of Kabbalah. I'm not talking to you here in Halacha. Tu B'Shvat is not a Kabbalistic day. You'll find Kehillat HaShamayim, Kabbalistic, Tu B'Shvat Seder. You'll find those. We always did Tu B'Shvat. 2 reasons. One, there was a time period here where we had some refugees who needed doses of Kabbalah. But also because everyone does Tu B'Shvat. So if we're going to do Tu B'Shvat, the Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu's attitude was hijack Tu B'Shvat and then do it right. Use the Tu B'Shvat day as a time to learn about halachot of checking fruits and vegetables and about different things that have to do with Eretz Yisrael, which is what we do here. If we do Tu B'Shvat, when we do Tu B'Shvat, that's what we talk about. The Tu B'Shvat Seder's origin is from the Bet HaMikdash of Shabtai Tzvi. Absolutely. There is an old Jewish origin. There's a famous Chacham Chagiz, who he was the. This all ties in. He was the grandfather of he who persecuted the Ramchal, Moshe Chaim Luzzatto.
You have to give us a lecture once by why they persecuted the
Ramchal. What did he do wrong?
Yeah, it's like you look at the book. It's like it's not. It seems. It's just like be good, be good, be good.
It wasn't the only book he wrote. That's it's a young man telling people that he speaks with angels and all kinds of spirits are speaking with him. He has a small group of devotees that follow him everywhere and that make secret pacts with each other. It reminded many people of things that were not too far away in their past. I'm not saying it's justified. Simply, like kind of what happened with the Hasidim. Similar story. This Chacham Chagiz, though, who is the Sephardic Kabbalistic origin of the Tu B'Shvat Seder, because the Arizal never heard of Tu B'Shvat Seder. It's not any of the writers of the Arizal, not the writers of Chaim Vital, it's not found in the Zohar. So even those who claim it's a Kabbalistic thing, it's not written in Kabbalah. At least not in any older books of Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Chacham Chagiz was a famous Sephardic Chacham. He also was a famous follower of Shabtai Tzvi. Shabtai Tzvi and Tu B'Shvat are very much intertwined. By the way, they're still Sabbathians today. There's a name for them. You probably know better than me. They're Muslim Sabbathians today. They followed Shabtai Tzvi after he converted to Islam. They're somewhere near Greece, Macedonia, that area they're still hanging out over there. They still celebrate Tu B'Shvat. It's their national holiday. Tu B'Shvat is all about the blossoming of the new fruits, and blossoming of fruits always has to do with the redemption. And Shabtai Tzvi had a very big part of this, abandoning certain mitzvot in the Torah and other things. This holiday has very much to do with everything that is Sabbathian. And somehow it became a mainstay of the Jewish calendar. And what's worse is that it's okay if you say, listen, we know the origins of Tu B'Shvat, we like the holiday, it's a nice day to eat dried fruits. But people are not willing to admit the origin of this holiday when there's no question. There is no source to Tu B'Shvat. Yes, the Mishnah mentions Tu B'Shvat, but not as a day where you do a Seder. This whole idea of a Seder, of Tu B'Shvat, and days of Kabbalah and prayers and this and that, are all from the Bet HaMikdash of Shabtai Tzvi. So back to our place in Shulchan Aruch. Back to page 400 in the red books. Under the 2 lines, in Nun Aleph, the last 3 lines in the middle of the page. L'otzi et ha'acherim k'sheino ocher. The laws of saying a bracha for somebody when he himself is not eating. Meaning, you making a blessing when the people you're blessing for are eating but you're not. מי שאינו אוכל אינו יכול לברך לצורך חברו בין ברכת המוציא ובין שאר ברכות הנהנים. Whether hamotzi or any other blessing on food, you cannot make a blessing for somebody if you yourself are not eating also. This contradicts a different halakha. You remember learning this halakha? The laws of talit? Let's read it. אף על פי שלעניין ברכות המצוות, even though regarding the blessings of mitzvot, okay, different categories of blessings, let's remember that. Bרכות הנהנים, blessings of enjoyment. So what falls into that category?
Enjoyment,
Yeah.
shakiyanu.
Food,
Oh,
drink, smell, all of those blessings. Berkot HaNe'enim. You then have Berkot HaMitzvah. Blessings of mitzvah. What are mitzvah blessings? Tefillin, talit. Pretty much anything say Asher Kedishanu B'Tzudah V'Tzivanu. Yeah. So lulav, vetog, all of the sukkah, all the mitzvot that happen there. You then have which brachot? Berkot HaHodah, blessings of Thanksgiving. Hagomer, Shechianu, some of the brachot. Okay, some say that the bedtime Shema falls into that category. Certain brachot that fall into this category. Berkot HaNehenim, the first category of brachot, you can never make a blessing for somebody else if you're not going to do. You can't bless for somebody on Besamim if you're not going to smell the Besamim too. You can't bless for somebody on Shakol if you're not going to drink also. Berkot HaMitzvot though have a different rule. The rule is, Af al pi she'linyan ha'birkat ha'mitzvot, the blessings of mitzvot, halacha rovachat b'yadenu, there's a halacha in our hands. She'af al pi she'yatza yedei chova, page 401, even though you fulfilled your own obligation, reshai levarech kedei lotzit mi she'eno yodeh levarech, you can make a blessing for somebody else who doesn't know how to bless. Haynu dafka li'an berkot ha'mitzvot, that's only regarding mitzvot. Mipnei she'af chavero mechuyav lekayem et ha'mitzvot, because your friend also has to do mitzvot. V'alav, and therefore on you there's an obligation. The L'sayah biyado shekayem et ha'mitzvot. You have an obligation to help them do the mitzvah, so you're able to say a blessing for them that they themselves don't know how to say. Mipnei shekol Yisrael arivin ze lazeh. All the Jewish people are responsible for each other. In that rule, all Jews are responsible for each other. It has a legal ramification. The legal ramification is that if another Jew doesn't know how to bless over a mitzvah, you are able to bless for them. You go blow the shofar for somebody, even though you blew the shofar already, you can make a blessing to blow the shofar again.
How would that play out at inviting a bunch of like kiruv people over to your house on Shabbat dinner? Would you repeatedly bless alternate yadayim for them as they prepare for?
Min hastam, if they can't make that blessing, then yes. I think in today's world, the blessing, it's not so hard to help a person like Baruch, Ata, Hashem.
You sort of get them.
You
to
could
say
do
it.
that, right? But even there, you're saying Hashem's name technically in vain, no? Now, some people you could just pause, skip Hashem's name, but some people you pause, they don't know what to say, right? So you can say Hashem's name in that context, and you wouldn't be saying Hashem's name in vain.
Let's say you're in a huge park in Yerushalayim on a Saturday night, and the chief rabbi blesses Besamim. Does that mean everybody who says Amen and heard it has to somehow get a besam to smell?
Now you're going back to whether you're allowed to make a bracha, amen, after the bracha.
That's a good one.
No. We just had a bracha. Can you answer amen? Chief rabbis are a complicated situation. Which category are they? That you're allowed to say amen after their blessings or not? When it comes to blessings of Besamim, he says a blessing on the Besamim. You answer amen. You didn't obligate yourself on the Besamim.
Because you said that anything that has pleasure, you yourself have to do it, but not the person who says Amen.
Oh, very good. So that's again. What about making kiddush for somebody?
Yeah.
What about the kiddush part? I understand, but the borei pli hagefen part is a blessing on food.
Yeah.
So maybe when you repeat kiddush for somebody, you can say the kiddush part, but they have to say the hagefen part.
Or you can drink the wine and say gefen.
Let's keep going here a little. Well, let me ask you this question. So if you're allowed to make a blessing for a mitzvah, because you are responsible for your friend, and your friend has to fulfill the mitzvah, that's why you're allowed to make the blessing for them. Doesn't your friend have an obligation to make a blessing before they eat food? Can they eat without making a bracha? No. So, isn't it a mitzvah to help them make a bracha on food?
Yes.
Yeah.
So why can't you make a bracha on food for them?
Because then you'd have to eat.
No, just like you don't have to wash your hands.
Right.
Really, why is Berkot HaNe'anin different than Berkot HaMitzvah? What's the fundamental difference between the two?
I don't know, it's tied to eating. I mean, it's tied to the action.
It's tied to shaking love in the toe.
I don't know what the reason is.
It says here something interesting. Avalinyan Berkot HaNe'anin, regarding blessings on food, on pleasure. Af al pi she'af chavero chayav levar chodem shechad, even though your friend has an obligation to make a blessing before they eat also. V'kol makom, nonetheless, harei eno chayav le'echol, your friend doesn't have any obligation to eat. Your friend doesn't have to eat that carrot. There's no obligation to eat the carrot.
No.
It's obligation when they choose to eat the carrot that they have to make a blessing. But it's not like the lulav netol. They don't have a choice to skip lulav netol. They can skip eating the carrot. There is no obligation for a Jew to go and eat his carrot sticks or to eat his bag of potato chips. Therefore, you don't have to make a bracha for them. מכיוון שאין עצם האכילה חובה, אין חובה יכול לברך בשבילו להוציא ידי חובה. And because the actual eating is not an obligation on your friend, there's no way that you are required or able to make a blessing for them. So now here you might be able to answer your question. We're going to talk about Kiddush just a moment. V'hainu, and therefore, אפילו כשאין חברו יודע ללך בעצמו, even if your friend doesn't know how to make a blessing on his own. ואפילו בדיעבד, אם ברך להוציא את חברו לא יצא ידי חובה, כשאין מברך אוכל בעצמו. Let's say your friend doesn't know how to make a bracha at all. He doesn't know how to repeat after you either. You can't say a blessing of hamotzi for him and then he eats the bread. It doesn't work. There's no way to make that work. מכל מקום, nonetheless, רשאי לברך הקטנים שאינם יודעים לברך, you're allowed to make brachot for children who can't yet say blessings, מפני שמצווה לחנכם ולמדם לברך ואפילו אינם בניו. And because you have an obligation, there's a mitzvah to teach them how to make blessings. And your children. And therefore you have an obligation to teach them, and you can also say brachot on food for them. Here's something interesting. Maran says, if you make a blessing for children, that you can make a blessing for children to teach them how to make brachot on foods. It's not so simple that you can make a bracha for my children. Who has an obligation to teach my children?
You do.
I do. So you are now obligated to teach my children
What if you're a
Torah?
malamed?
No, it's not.
The bracha, the obligation is mine. Let's look at a
What
funny
if you're in school with the teacher as the obligation?
Right, so we spoke already about a teacher.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about just random kids at the Beit Knesset.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, if you see, like, if I see, like, Elchanan, I
Right, let me help you make a Barim Zorot.
Right.
Maran doesn't say only your children. Maran says children. We'll see this topic as a matter of debate. Look here in the left column in the Rashi script, 401. Ayen bebraita. You see Kuf Nun over there in the 5 lines down? Look in the Braita, in Masechet Rosh Hashanah. Aval pores hu levanav ulvnei beto. How do I properly translate pores? Pores. Let's translate loosely. You're allowed to make a blessing for your children or your people of your home, even though you're not eating with them. And the Braita says that even though you can't make blessings on food for other people, but for the people of your household, like your children, you're allowed to make a bracha for them. Ve'ayen beBeit Yosef, look in the Beit Yosef. Who's Beit Yosef? Maran. Shehivi shnei pirushim. Maran brings 2 different commentaries on this Braita. Im hainu dafka banav, or af ktanim achirim. Maran is saying there's 2 ways to read this. Either you can make a blessing for children, or literally you can read the Braita, you can only make blessings for your children, the people in your house. Maran doesn't tell us there what his opinion is. He just brings 2 different commentaries. Bring me a proof that Maran holds all children. That's the reading of the Braita he believes in. What's your proof?
You're asking us.
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Yeah. What
What does Maran say here on page 400? Aval lektanim, but for children. This is your children?
No.
Just children.
Maran rules like the more generic term, any children, not just your children. Umilshono b'Shulchan Aruch in the left column, but in his language from Shulchan Aruch, kan here, mashma deshari b'chol ktanim. It seems like you can make a blessing for any children. Afilu enam banav, even if they're not your children. Uchmo shekatvu haber agola, like the Ber Agola writes, Lapri Megadim, like he writes. Vayen biyad Haron, look in the book Yad Haron, she'ir hazeh mishon Shulchan Aruch, demashma dahainu davka banav. He seems to say elsewhere that Maran holds only your children. That's where he's going to say that from. You want to go to Shulchan Aruch? So Halakha, Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim, chapter 297.
Got it.
The last Halakha, Halakha Hey.
Got it.
This is about the blessing of Bisamim. Okay? Bisamim.
Bereach.
Maran writes, Mi she'eno mariach. Somebody who's not going to smell the Bisamim, eino mevarech ala Bisamim. Does not make a blessing on Bisamim.
Does that mean a person who lost their sense of smell never makes?
It's an interesting question. What does it mean, a person who...
I know people claim
Yeah,
they can't
that's-
smell all kinds of things.
That's Maran's literal translation here, is somebody who doesn't have the ability to smell. Cannot make a blessing on Bisamim. Elam ken, unless nitkaven lotzi b'nei beito aktanim. Unless he intends to fulfill the obligation of the bracha for the children of his household. Shigiu lechinuch, that came to the age of education. Or the hotzi mi she'eno yodea, or to fulfill the obligation for someone who doesn't know. The
Someone doesn't know
doesn't know how to make a blessing.
who's an adult, not
Yes.
a child.
The Yad Haron is trying to say from here, don't read Maran so literally in our chapter. Maran says children, but really he means children as in the children of his household. So even though you could learn from our halachot of Hamotzi, that Maran says that you can say a bracha for all children. He says based on Maran here, it seems like only the children of your home, and that would fit in with the Braita that can be read that way. And Maran does quote in Bet Yosef that there is a way to read the Braita like that. Back to our page in 401. וציין לעיין בזה בשו"ת סמא דחיי, ועיין בשו"ת הר"ן, דמוכח להגה, דהיינו אפילו בעינם, page 402, בניו. The Shut Haran seems to say that even people that are not your children, you can make a blessing for. וכן נראה מדברי כמה ראשונים שכתבו עניין ברכה בגפן על המילה. And I'm skipping a few lines. וכן הסכימו הלבוש, והבח, והתז, ועולה תמיד, המהר"ם בן חביב, והיד אהרון, והגר"א, והשולחן ערוך הגאון רבי זלמן, ומשנה ברורה, והכף החיים. Pretty much the overwhelming number of chachamim that we're reading from are all saying that you can make a bracha for all children. This literal reading of only for your children is a little too literal. So Zev, you can help my children make bracha.
Thank you.
By the way, I'm just throwing it out here.
It's not an obligation.
It could be that a teacher has a different obligation to teach children brachot. Aside from their obligation as a teacher, there's a special mitzvah to teach someone else's child mitzvot if that person, the parent, can't teach it. Doesn't know how, doesn't have enough information how, doesn't... so there's a mitzvah for you to teach. By the way, from here, Chachamim say that if you teach someone else's child Torah, I mean, their parent doesn't teach them Torah, so you teach them Torah, that they're considered halachically
Like their parents.
your children.
Oh, okay.
From here, Reb Uziel wanted to use, he borrowed that to say that a person who was adopted by a father who raised him, that when he goes to the Torah, he's able to call himself by the name of his adopted father. If that's the father who raised him, that's the one who taught him mitzvot, that's the one who learned Torah with him, he's allowed to use that name in the Torah.
Instead of his birth father.
Instead of his birth father's name.
So you would say like Uziel ben.
So, yeah, his father's name.
Yeah, look, so many kids have got tortured in that in the name of we're going to dredge up the
old
memory
name
of your
a
real
different family.
father, the one that beat you, the one that ran off on your mom or
But
whatever.
this, by the way, this happens sometimes also in Giyul. First, by the Aliyah Torah, it's not such a big deal. Who cares what name they call? I mean, maybe some people care, but there's no halachot per se. I call you if you want to go. Your name wants to be Jiminy Cricket. We'll call you a Torah, whatever name you wish. But there are times where it has practical in a ketubah, for example. yeah, or in some kind of Jewish legal document, you want to, whatever it would be, you're allowed to use, not, or those who disagree with Rav Uziel, of course.
So
But
isn't
Rav
it,
Uziel felt strongly that this is a,
so it isn't a standard thing for Garrett Sedek to say Ben Avraham or Ben Sarah or Ben.
again, listen to me very carefully, a halakha that most people don't know. If I write a ketubah for a Ger Tzedek, and the Ger Tzedek I write in there, Moshe ben Avraham, the ketubah is invalid. You have to write a new ketubah.
Really?
Unless you write the word Avraham Avinu, that was my forefather, the ketubah is invalid. This Jewish culture of using just Avraham, ben Avraham, is because Gerim, rightfully so, have a fear of being identified as Gerim by the Jewish community they're in. So because of this, they don't want to tell everybody they're a Ger Tzedek. It used to be a great source of pride. I'm Ben Avraham Avinu. What better name could I have than that? Rambam tells Ovadia Hager, I'm jealous of you. Who gets to be called Ben Avraham Avinu? But in most places, people don't use. Using Bat Sarah or Ben Sarah, I never in my life saw. I don't know all of the Torah. I never in my life saw a source for this. All of a sudden, Bat Sarah. Listen, Simon was big, but I don't automatically refer.
Your mother's name is Sarah. What? How you?
If your mother's name is Sarah, that's one thing. But if someone converts to Judaism, automatically becomes
I
a
know
daughter of
that, but
Sarah.
I mean, how are you gonna know that? You said you can tell the difference between a convert and.
No, Bat Sarah Imenu would have to be. But Avraham and Sarah as the name to use for somebody who converted to Judaism is incorrect, halachically. But I don't blame people in that situation for being afraid to tell in certain communities, Baruch Hashem, not ours. I'm very proud about that. But in other places, I'm certain that there's a lot of challenges that come with that. Not everyone wants to know someone's. I did a chuppah a few years ago now. For a couple, he was adopted as a child, and nobody knew that. Nobody knew that. His wife obviously knew that, his parents, but none of that. He doesn't even know who his father is. He was adopted by. This was his mother, but he was adopted by his father. What do you write in the ketubah? He doesn't want. Today he knows legally his biological father's name. He doesn't want that name in the ketubah. More than he doesn't want his father's name, his biological father in the ketubah. Nobody would know who you're talking about if you said Moshe ben David. Everybody knows that David is his father.
Yeah.
In that kind of situation, you have to be clever how you do these things. You can't write a lie inside of the ketubah either. You also have to make sure that you are. Today, Baruch Hashem, a lot of problems are solved because we write last names inside the ketubah. I won't do a ketubah. I once had to do a ketubah in the chief rabbin in Israel. And the chief rabbin in Israel, by the Ashkenazi ketubah, they don't let you write last names. And because I had to give a copy of the ketubah back to the chief rabbinate, I couldn't do whatever I wanted to do. But since then, whenever I marry off a couple, if they want not to use last names, they can find another rabbi to write them. You have to write a person's name in the ketubah, real name. When I say I have a problem, my name is a witness. My last name is not really a last name. But let's say you're a good example. Yeah, Zev Yaakov ben Yosef Leib Halevy. You should write ben Yosef Leib Halevy Rosenberg. You should write Rosenberg in the ketubah because there's a lot of Halevy. Not everybody, unless you've been praying here for a long time, know that your Hebrew name is Zev Yaakov ben Yosef Leib Halevy. So there has to be some identifier that tells us who is this person who actually signed here. And it's important. And once you start putting last names as an identifier, so really, whose father's name you put, maybe I'm just suggesting, is less important. Because even if you put the adopted father's name, you have the last name. You know exactly which David you're talking about, or which Shlomo you're talking about.
My last name would, that wouldn't fit on the ketubah.
It wouldn't. That's
It's so long.
in some places that wouldn't fit on the ketubah. There's a lot of. Yeah, we'll get to it.
So one of the issues about using last names, I think, is that it gets very confusing when people get married, because you have maiden names, you have family names, and then you don't know who's who, really.
I did a ketubah for a lady who was divorced.
Yeah.
But she kept her first husband's last name.
Right.
In the ketubah, she wanted not her maiden name, her married last name from the previous marriage.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I don't know. If I was the second husband, but I wasn't the second husband, so that wasn't my call.
Yeah.
What I had to do there was give me two last names.
What? And two last names.
Silverstein and
Cohen and
Greenstein.
Silverstein.
Cohen and Silverstein. Great. So I wrote, let's make up a name, Sarah Cohen, the daughter of Avraham Silverstein. That way it would be, because if I would write Sarah but Avraham Silverstein Cohen, it would be wrong. That's not her father's last name.
Yeah.
If I write Silverstein, that's not the name she identifies with. I wrote both. Just I switched a little bit. You have to sometimes before you write someone's last name, you write lebeit or the mishpacha, to the family of. She's not actually to the family of her ex-husband, and therefore I just wrote it there that she's using the last name, but I didn't write lebeit. For her father, lebeit or the mishpacha. And so on. I once asked Pence a question, the laws of ketubah. I said, "Who cares?" I said, "Who cares?" I said, "Nobody uses the ketubah anymore." So every time I said, "When's the last time you met a couple that got divorced and they didn't go to court to fight? They just went to the bedin, they finished the ketubah, and they went home. When's the last time you met such a couple?" I said, "Everyone makes such a big deal about the ketubah. They want a beautiful ketubah. What's the right nusach of the ketubah? How do you write the names? How do you spell San Diego? And how many ayins? How many others?" But who actually uses the ketubah chas v'shalom when they get divorced? Who do you know? Nobody. It's just for that reason.
It's hung on the wall.